reasons. We're going to take you through a big update on that. And also delving into our next story here will be Iran and Israel. The situation of war has gotten to a point where Netanyahu says it's not impossible. While looking at targeting Khamenei, questions being asked whether he will do it, he says, I won't deny it. All right, on that note, as always, let me take you through all that story. The headlines first. Sanatan revival, a symbol of resolve, says VP Dhankhar in Puducherry, calls for political tempering, linguistic unity and a shift from profit-driven to service-oriented education model. Supreme Court slams Karnataka over thug life, blockade, warns against mob rule. Justice Boyan says rule of law must prevail, criticizing the state inaction as a film screening is disrupted by vigilante threats. The court says mob cannot prevail, mob threats will not prevail and government should keep a check on that. Next hearing, June 18th. Amarnath Yatra 2025, routes declared as no-flying zone amid tight security. Drones, UAVs and aerial devices have been banned along Pahalgam and Baltal routes to ensure safety of the pilgrims there. Meghalaya honeymoon murder. Crime scene now has been recreated by the police. Of course, there's still suspicion that something may be yet to be uncovered. 2 machetes were used in the attack, but only one has been recovered so far. Where is the other one? Police say all 3 aides of the wife's lover assaulted Raja Raghuvanshi and dumped the body in the gorge. Beta Valley parks and zipline reopen in Anantnag to boost tourism. Jammu and Kashmir government now revives ski attractions in Pahalgam after the horrific massacre. Locals, tourists all welcome. Of course, safety, security guidelines have been put in place. Sonu Nigam evades police in Kannadiga insult case. An FIR that was filed against him. The police now trying to probe this matter, wanting to record his statement. But we hear he's been dodging all police summons. In fact, Avalahalli cops may now approach court soon, claiming Sonu Nigam isn't cooperating. Protests erupt in Washington as Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir visits Pakistan embassy there. In fact, we saw PTI supporters and some civilians, Pakistan citizens, heckling his convoy. As his convoy passes, you have some Pakistanis there slamming him, calling him mass murderer, dictator, whatnot. Netanyahu says eliminating Khamenei would not de-escalate but end Iran-Israel conflict. Israeli Prime Minister defends the strikes on Iran, warns the world of Tehran's nuclear threat, saying Iran's nuclear threat is not just for Israel but to the world. Trump cuts short G7 summit trip, teases bigger move than Iran-Israel ceasefire, while slamming French President Macron's ceasefire claims is wrong. Meanwhile, the Pentagon boosts its Middle East deployments amid raising tensions. Right, let me take you through our top story on the Air India crash. It's been now 5 days and we're looking at families aggrieved, wanting to get hold of their loved ones' mortal remains. Funeral that took place today was that of Captain, who was a pilot, maneuvered the flight, but unfortunately landed into a crash. More turbulence for Air India, and not the kind you'd expect mid-air. Days after the deadliest crash in over a decade, India's national carrier is now staring at a credibility crisis, with at least 7 Air India flights that stand cancelled today, raising urgent questions about aircraft safety, of maintenance lapses and of passenger trust. The biggest flashpoint today was, of course, the London-bound Air India flight from Ahmedabad that was abruptly cancelled due to a technical snag. Ironically, on board that flight was Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, the sole survivor of the Ahmedabad tragedy. That man wanted to get on this plane and get to London as soon as possible. Yet again, it seems like there was a setback for him. The same man who managed to defy death 5 days ago, now stranded on the tarmac yet again. Clearly a cruel twist there for him. Passengers were furious. We saw many of them very upset that they had lost time and, importantly, patience, money. Of course, their tickets will be compensated, but this was really frustrating for many of the passengers who had boarded that flight but eventually found out that it was cancelled. A second scare was mid-route, an Air India San Francisco-Mumbai flight that was forced to deplane passengers during a scheduled stop in Kolkata. In fact, engineers there found a suspected issue with the left engine of that aircraft, sparking fears of another mishap. Passengers remained on board for over 4 hours, we hear, before finally being deplaned. Again, sparked a lot of outrage among those passengers. In total today, 7 Air India flights were either cancelled or grounded. 6 of them Boeing Dreamliners. Air India 131 Ahmedabad to London, which reported a technical snag. Air India 180 San Francisco to Mumbai. Emergency inspection in Kolkata eventually led for it to be grounded. Air India 133 Bengaluru to London. Preemptive cancellation amid safety checks. We hear there's a lot of checks that's currently being on of Boeing flights, and that's led to a few aircrafts being unavailable to fly. So that was an added reason to why Air India is not able to manage the sudden crisis. 3 other flights were Dreamliners grounded for mandated post-crash inspections, and one was a non-Dreamliner aircraft that was pulled due to staffing and turnaround issues. Basically, at this point, from what we see, Air India not taking the slightest of chance. They rather cancel flights or make people wait until they are super sure that the flight can take off. As the airline now struggles to restore control, India bids goodbye to one of its bravest pilots, Captain Sumit Sabharwal. His funeral was today. Very sad to see his parents sobbing as they hold on to that coffin. His last flight ended in tragedy. Today he was remembered for his courage, though. The solemn funeral there was held in Mumbai with full airline honours as his colleagues saluted the man who stayed calm as chaos unfolded around him. Meanwhile, new visuals have now emerged from the BJ Medical College hostel, the building that took flight. In fact, the building that took the real brunt of flight AI 171's final descent. Students can be seen jumping out of windows to escape the flames. Rescue teams say that 8 students are confirmed dead. 3 of them are still missing. Most others were asleep when the plane tore through the building, turning a place of learning there into a literal war zone. Ahmedabad Civil Hospital Superintendent Rakesh Joshi has confirmed from him, we hear 4 people have died, but several reports claiming that 8 people have succumbed while 3 remain missing. Though I'm going to play out this very reaction of the Dr. Joshi for you.
163 DNA मैच हो चुके हैं, जिसके थ्रू 124 पार्थिव देह उनके स्वजन को, उनके फैमिली मेंबर को यहाँ से दिए गए हैं, और ये आंकड़े धीरे धीरे बढ़ेंगे जिस हिसाब से हमको रिपोर्ट आती है। जो बाकी के 39 बचे, उसमें से 21 ऐसे हैं जो कुछ ही घंटों में, मतलब सुबह तक जाएंगे। 2 अंडर प्रोसेस है एंड 12 लोग जो अपने दूसरे स्वजन का मैचिंग का वेट कर रहे हैं, और बाकी के जो 4 है कुछ लीगल इश्यू से, उसी की वजह से उसको रोका गया है। फिलहाल जो दाखिल की मैंने फिर से बात की थी वो करूंगा। 71 टोटल एडमिशन हुए थे उस दिन, उसमें से 42 डिस्चार्ज हो चुके हैं। सिविल हॉस्पिटल में फिलहाल 9 दर्दी दाखिल है। दाखिल होने के बाद 2 व्यक्ति की डेथ हुई है।
Now, DNA identification status, as we know, so far 162 matches have been completed. The mortal remains of 120 people have been handed over to the families. Officials say the remaining handovers will happen soon as and when the DNA is matched. It's really an agonizing wait for many of those families who are still waiting to get hold of anything of their loved ones. Their bodies are beyond recognition. So it's very hard for them to actually establish even the DNA samples. But work is on. This isn't just a story of crash. It's a story of broken systems, broken families and broken trust. Until the full truth comes out, India will not be able to exhale. All right, shifting our focus to Justice Varma. Weeks after the mysterious fire and cash controversy at Justice Yashwant Varma's home, it appears that someone has decided to speak up for him. None other than senior advocate and Rajya Sabha MP Kapil Sibal, who is currently backing the Delhi High Court judge and slamming the government for what he calls a witch hunt. The case has sparked massive buzz after sacks of burnt cash were found at Justice Varma's Delhi residence on March 14th. A 3-judge panel was formed to probe that case as well, but until date, no FIR has been filed, no formal charges have been framed. Despite that, the government has moved towards impeachment. Now, Kapil Sibal says that's shocking. He claims that Justice Varma was never even given a chance to explain himself. Let's listen in.
हाईकोर्ट जज के खिलाफ आपने एक फैसला दे दिया बिना कोई कार्रवाई के, बिना कोई प्रोसीजर के, तो उसका जो स्टेटस रहा वो तो डिप्टी सेक्रेटरी से कम रहा ना, क्योंकि डिप्टी सेक्रेटरी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को तो एक प्रोसीजर उनके खिलाफ चलाना पड़ता है. दिस इज एब्सोल्युटली शॉकिंग. और जज साहब ने 30 तारीख के जो जवाब में ये लिखा कि मुझे सुना जाए, कोई फैसले से पहले मुझे सुना जाए. हमेशा पहले भी होता रहा कि जब भी ऐसे केस हुए तो जज को सुना जाता था, सुनवाई भी नहीं हुई. एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली द पॉलिटिकल क्लास हैज गॉट इनटू द एक्ट एंड दिस गवर्नमेंट इज प्रोटेक्टिंग ए जज against whom no evidence is required. I just want to explain to the people of this country that for all impeachments in the past, the case here is entirely different.
Now, Kapil Sibal calls the move as malicious propaganda. He says there's not a whiff of wrongdoing in Justice Varma's judicial record and warns the government's playing what they are doing, basically, he says, is nothing but playing with fire. Now, Kapil Sibal questions to the government, why wasn't Justice Varma given a hearing? Why is there no action against Justice Shekhar Yadav, whose communal remarks are on record? And why this selective use of impeachment notices? Kapil Sibal says any move to remove a sitting judge based purely on an internal probe bypassing the constitutional impeachment route is unconstitutional, and worse, it threatens judicial independence. We're going to wait and watch for what the truth really is here. Let's wait for a response to come in from the government, who right now is seeking for Justice Varma's impeachment. All right, shifting our focus to a very interesting story, as India is now hosting one of the world's most expensive fighter jets. I'll tell you how. $1 billion British warplane, the world's most advanced stealth jet, is currently grounded in Kerala. No war, no warning, no explanation. An F-35B Lightning II, part of the Royal Navy's prized fleet, made an emergency landing at the Thiruvananthapuram airport, and India now finds itself playing unexpected host to one of NATO's most secretive missions. In fact, it happened just after 9:30 p.m. on June 14th, when stormy skies forced this jet that was returning from Indo-Pacific drills to abort landing originally scheduled for HMS Prince of Wales. Instead, it touched down on Indian soil at a civilian airport. This wasn't, of course, random. Thiruvananthapuram was quietly marked as an emergency diversion base during UK-India naval coordination at one point. Still, landing a 5th-generation stealth fighter armed with top-secret sensors and radar systems outside NATO territory is really unheard of. And now it's, of course, parked in full view for people there in Kerala to rejoice. It's surely guarded. It's not out for public there. But at this point, we hear it's under the watch of the CISF and the Indian Air Force. British engineers have been flown in. The Malayalam press have really at this point gone completely enthusiastic and upbeat, reporting on this very fighter jet. In fact, many of them suspect this to be a hydraulic fault, which is why it managed to almost emergency land at that airport there. There was a system failure, a faulty system that led to this emergency landing there. But both sides are staying tight-lipped, aware of just how sensitive this is. This isn't just an emergency landing, it was a $1 billion gamble to keep the jet from actually crashing into the sea. Now, India didn't ask for this. It's now babysitting one of the West's most prized assets. Of course, the question is, can we keep this jet? Well, the short answer is no. The long answer is absolutely not. The F-35 is a fortress of classified tech. Even in emergencies, it stays under full British command. India can protect it, but not peek into it. But here's, of course, the headline. India just became one of the very few non-NATO nations to host a grounded F-35. Even if it is only by fluke, well, that's still no small landing. All right, let me take you through a Tamil Nadu crime story that's unfolded and how. Top Tamil Nadu cop is currently in jail. A 16-year-old boy has been abducted and a politician has been accused of shielding this crime. This is certainly not a movie that I'm spelling out for you here. It's the state of law and order currently in Tamil Nadu. ADGP, the man on your screens there, HM Jairam, a senior IPS officer, has been suspended and now arrested. His crime for helping abduct a minor boy. In fact, the Madras High Court has ordered his arrest. Jairam, who tried to seek protection from the same court, was taken into custody right outside the courtroom. He was immediately taken to the Thiruvanangadu police station for interrogation. The backstory, of course, is very disturbing. It all began with a love marriage. A 22-year-old man married a woman from Theni against her family's wishes. The couple went into hiding, but what followed was really shocking. Hired men stormed into the groom's home. In his absence, they abducted his younger brother, who's just 16 years old. Now, here's the damning part. The police say that the boy was taken in a car that was registered by ADGP Jairam. And the person who was driving that car was a serving police constable. Along with him, a dismissed ex-police woman and bride's furious father. Imagine, the state police there indulging in a crime as heinous. The boy was found hours later near a hotel, who was injured, he was dumped and traumatized. Now enters the big political twist here is MLA Puvai Jagan Murthy, leader of the Purachi Bharatam Kachi, accused of backing this abduction and trying to stall the investigation altogether. Now, his men allegedly formed a human shield to block police from entering his residence. The Madras High Court came down hard, asking if the MLA, whether he was afraid of any kind of police investigation. The court, in fact, asking, you are not above the law. If you're not afraid of investigation, then face this probe. The court warned him not to appear with his cadre, saying elected representatives must be role models and not run kangaroo courts. Today, the MLA was finally questioned. Now, investigators are probing money trails as well, suspicious financial transactions that could blow the lid off a much deeper nexus. The senior cop's car, a politician's muscle, and the boy's nightmare. Can't imagine just how far this rot can really go. All right, here's Kantara, the film is currently under shoot. There seems to be several instances that have panned out here for this film. One could really call it a jinx. What's really going on with Kantara Chapter 1? A boat topples, a man drowns, 2 actors die suddenly. Whispers now growing louder, has something gone wrong with the spirits of the forest? The world of Kantara is steeped in the sacred and supernatural. And now, reality around the film's shoot is starting to feel haunted. The second edition of Rishabh Shetty's folklore epic, based on coastal Karnataka's guardian spirits, Panjurali and Guliga, has now been struck by an eerie string of tragedies. Just days ago, a massive prop boat toppled over at the money reservoir. No crew was there on board. Thankfully, nobody faced the brunt there, but at the end of it, equipment got damaged and that boat capsized. No lives were lost. Earlier, popular mimicry artist Kalabhavan Niju died of a heart attack in Bengaluru, where the shoot was currently underway. In fact, we hear just before that, in May, 33-year-old junior artist M.F. Kapil drowned in Sauparnika River near Kollur Temple. He entered the water during a break and never came back. The police then filed an FIR as well. Now, before that, actor-comedian Rakesh Pujari, he collapsed during a wedding due to a cardiac arrest. 3 deaths, 1 boat mishap, all under 2 months. These aren't just production setbacks anymore. They've turned into now questions being raised if there's something much higher and much more powerful trying to send out a real message. This has really turned into fuel for superstition. Some locals believe the Daivas are angered perhaps by something that broke custom or disrespected sacred ground. Because these are not ordinary stories here. Panjuruli and Goliga, worshipped as fierce protectors, are said to bless but also punish, especially when rituals are incomplete or boundaries are crossed. Rishabh Shetty and his team, of course, insist that all traditions have been followed. They've dismissed any talk of curses as rumor and coincidence. But the question, of course, remains, misfortune keeps repeating in such a manner. When myth and reality start to blur, is this just chance or something bigger at play? Right now, we're looking at law and order in Karnataka as the government has decided to ensure passengers' safety and decided now to ban bike taxis. Even though the matter went up to court, the court also said no more bike taxis until the state government comes up with proper guidelines. Karnataka has now pulled the brakes entirely on bike taxis, and the fallout has been massive. Starting June 16th, bike taxis have been officially banned across the state of Karnataka. The crackdown comes after a High Court order and a sweeping enforcement drive by the Transport Department. In just one day, though, 103 illegal bike taxis were seized in Bengaluru alone. The High Court had made it quite clear, no more unregulated bike taxi services. The state backed that, in fact, the state itself agreeing to this, citing serious concerns over safety, lack of regulation, and zero insurance coverage for passengers. And here's what's happening right now. Drivers and platforms are trying to game the system. Bike taxis are being disguised as parcel deliveries. Riders are booked for fake courier jobs, and passengers hop on to that bike and use it as a bike taxi. Transport officers are now turning the tables. They're booking these fake parcel rides themselves, seizing vehicles when riders show up if they find out that this was the ploy. Apps like Uber, Ola, Rapido have in fact removed the bike taxi label itself, but the rides haven't stopped. We hear in the guise of courier or parcel, people are actually hopping on as real parcels on the bike, human parcels on the bike, and going away to their drop spot. But areas like Electronic City, HSR Layout, Kormangla continue to buzz with this current activity. As I say, it's illegal. If you are part of it, stay clear. Rapido alone has over 6 lakh bike taxis registered across Karnataka, and now over 1 lakh riders, many of them students, gig workers, unemployed youth, are staring at uncertainty. In Bengaluru, 11 RTO zones have begun aggressive enforcement. West RTO seized nearly 16 vehicles. Electronic City has seized 15, KR Puram has seized 13, Bengaluru East has seized 12. Each RTO has formed special squads, 2 to 3 teams per zone to crack down on these gig workers if they are violating the rules. As crackdown now intensifies, of course, gig workers who are without a job, scores of them who lost out on their earnings, now really pleading for help. The Namma Bike Taxi Association has written to Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and also Rahul Gandhi, asking for some means to their livelihood, saying, we are students, we are daily workers, we are unemployed youth, we need the money. The letter calls this a fight for dignity, asking the government to regulate norms and not to eliminate bike taxis. For now, the state's stand is quite firm. Bike taxis are illegal, violators will be booked. Right, let me take you through this really terrifying story that's coming in from Karnataka in a scene straight out of a crime comedy, but with very real consequences. Panic has swept through Chalakere town in Karnataka after a bizarre burglary attempt by the infamous Chaddi gang. 6 masked men wearing nothing but what you see there, t-shirts, something like an undergarment, and a pant which is rolled up to their knees, which they call as Chaddi. They themselves have called themselves Chaddi gang. They've broken into homes. One particular home was a local advocate there. They barged into that house and guess how much they stole? A grand total of rupees 700. Well, that's not the amount that has really rattled us, of course, but most importantly, it's how they did it. The house belonged to Advocate Jayasheela Reddy in Jafar Sharif layout. She was away when the gang struck. CCTV footage shows the half-naked men breaking in, ransacking the house, literally prying open a locker and fleeing with barely any cash. The point is, if there was more cash and more valuables, it would have all been gone. Visuals have now gone viral since, spreading fear and disbelief in Bengaluru in Karnataka over a gang like this on the prowl. Residents say they're more stunned by the gang's audacity than what they've actually stolen. A break-in is scary enough, but one carried out by people in masks, men in masks, that just shows next level brazenness. Police say this isn't the first time the Chaddi gang has struck. Known for their odd attire and swift getaways, this gang uses the near-naked disguise to avoid identification, mask themselves so that CCTV does not catch them. Chalakere DYSP Rajanna has visited the spot. FIR has been filed. Officials are now trying to scan footage and get a hold of these culprits. But it's been quite a while that this gang is on the prowl. So really, why hasn't the Karnataka government and the police cracked down on them as yet? For Chalakere residents particularly, the message is quite chilling. Criminals there throwing caution, clothes and consequences all to the wind. All right, taking you through a quick look at the rain fury that's devastated some parts of the country. Flooded metros to landslides in the Western Ghats. The monsoon has unleashed in full fury, leaving citizens stranded, roads waterlogged and disaster teams on high alert. Let's begin with the national capital, Delhi. As I speak now, rains have lashed Delhi. Delhi NCR currently on red alert as rain, of course, on one hand cooling the city, but also flooding the streets. Chaos follows. Rain and gusty winds swept across Delhi NCR region, bringing relief from the relentless heat wave, but also waterlogged streets, traffic snarls, flight disruptions as well. IMD has issued a red alert, warning of thunderstorms, hailstorms and winds of up to 70 kilometers per hour. Areas like Basantgaon, Subrato Park and Golf Course Road along Gurgaon areas all submerged. Delhi airport delays were reported, with passengers advised to check with their airlines for any kind of delay or cancellations as well. Despite the chaos, rain improved the city's air quality though, with AQI now at 96 in Delhi, classified as satisfactory, one of the rare moments for Delhi surely. Delhi remains under yellow alert. Delhi itself is under yellow alert at this point, and more rain and gusty winds expected. Now taking you through Gujarat, where we saw flooding in full spate. The Chief Minister has ordered swift response and inquiry, of course trying to help those who are stranded there. Roads and low-lying areas completely submerged. IMD in Gujarat, for Gujarat, has forecasted heavy to very heavy rainfall in the next 72 hours. The Chief Minister, Bhupendra Patel, has ordered emergency evacuation, rapid drainage and essential service deliveries. Officials are under strict orders to ensure food, water and medicine reach all affected areas. In Kasaragod now, major landslide in Kerala's Kasaragod has occurred on the national highway under construction in Starnagar, Devinje. Traffic was halted, only ambulance was allowed to pass. Second major landslide that's been reported in recent days. And in Chalanam, Ernakulam, massive sea surges battered homes along the coastal line. Over 500 houses affected, One house completely destroyed in Ernakulam. Sandbags failed to hold back the waves. Residents say this is the worst coastal flooding ever seen in years. To Karnataka, a 200-meter-long landslide was reported in Karnataka in Kundagalu village, Shivamogga district, due to persistent rainfall in Malnad region. Locals fear further landslips and damage has been reported. IMD issues an orange alert for Tuesday and yellow alert for Wednesday. Officials are assessing the area and preparing preventive measures. Red alert, flooded streets in Mumbai. Let me cut across to Mumbai itself. We hear that parts of Maharashtra currently has been dubbed as very severe rainfall. Red alert has been sounded there. In Maharashtra, torrential rains has also claimed 18 lives since June 1st. 65 people have been injured. The sea in Mumbai's Juhu beach saw 4.5 meter high waves, prompting a ban on beach access. Mumbai, Thane and Raigad are under red alert with continuous rain leading to overflow at Andheri subway, cutting off east-west traffic. Flooding in King's Circle is well reported. Wall collapse at Vashi Plaza. Harbour Line trains that were running late. JVLR route and Kalyan Thane areas were all flooded. Massive road cave-in followed. No casualties reported there. In Ratnagiri, rivers Jagbudi and Shastri crossed danger marks, flooding villages near Rajapur authorities. As we know that authorities at this point have said, ask basically locals there to stay indoors if not urgent. Clearly, we're looking at most parts of the country now already facing the brunt of pre-monsoons. All right, now cutting across to our international story, US President Donald Trump left the G7 summit a little too early, and when reporters barged asking him questions, he says, I have to go back early for obvious reasons. Trump says he's not just looking for a ceasefire in Iran, he wants a real end to the Iran-Israel conflict that's ongoing. Addressing reporters after he abruptly left from the G7 summit, he revealed that he may dispatch key aides, J.D. Vance and Steve Witkoff, to open negotiation channels with Tehran. Now, in a post on Truth Social, as Trump's message there, he says, French President Emmanuel Macron mistook him leaving the G7 for working out a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. He says that he was going for something a lot more bigger. Ceasefire was not what he wanted. Let's listen in. Macron who spoke.
Écoutez, il y a une offre qui a été faite, en effet.
There is an offer that has been made, indeed, of meetings and exchanges. There is an offer that has been made, especially to have a ceasefire and to initiate broader discussions. And I think this is a very good thing. So now we need to see what the stakeholders will do.
Prenantes suivront.
The president spoke a few minutes ago to say that there were ongoing discussions, which is a good thing. And so if the United States of America can achieve a ceasefire, it is a very good thing, and France will support it, and we wish for it. Then, I say it is absolutely essential that all strikes from both sides against energy, administrative, and cultural infrastructures, and even more so against the civilian population, cease. Nothing justifies this, and they are absolutely intolerable.
Now, reports circulated that Trump had instructed the White House National Security Council to meet upon his return. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete has announced that deployment of additional capabilities to the Middle East to enhance Pentagon's defensive posture. Now, Trump, as he said, responding to Macron, he took to his social platform saying that publicity-seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit in Canada to go back to DC to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I'm now on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire, much bigger than that. Whether purposely or not, Emmanuel Macron always gets it wrong. Basically, Donald Trump at this point really suggesting that he is looking at a far bigger peace deal between Iran and Israel. And for him, he says, my vision is to end the conflict. It's not for a ceasefire alone. So when Emmanuel Macron said that Trump was leaving G7 to strike a ceasefire, it seemed to have clearly offended Donald Trump. And finally, here are protests that erupted in Washington today against Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir. Protesters put up LCDs showing posters calling Asim Munir a mass murderer. And guess who those protesters are? Pakistani citizens themselves. Pakistanis who slammed Asim Munir as he was in the United States. As he arrived at the Pakistan embassy in Washington, you had Pakistanis there saying that he has killed Pakistan, that he is a murderer, saying Pakistan civilians will rise and they will fight against him. Protesters chanted slogans to protest the Pakistan's army chief's presence there in the United States. As the army chief came out of the hotel, people shouted slogans like Asim Munir, you are a coward, shame on you, mass murderer, shame on you, dictator. They shouted slogans demanding the restoration of what they call unfettered democracy in Pakistan. People in the video there can also be seen arguing with authorities who try to stop them off, saying it's their right to speak.
Shame! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame! Free Pakistan! Civilian supremacy in Pakistan! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you, bastard! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Dictator! Shame on you, dictator! Shame on
In fact, we hear many of those supporters were also part of Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, PTI. They called for a protest outside the Pakistani embassy in Washington, knowing very well that Asim Munir was going to arrive. They scheduled this very protest, is what some say. So even before Munir's visit had been officially announced, they brought people together and scheduled this protest. Asim Munir reached Washington a day ago for a 5-day official visit in the United States to strengthen military and strategic ties between Pakistan and the United States. That's the aim. Earlier, US denied inviting Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir to 250th Army Anniversary Parade, but nonetheless, it seems like Asim Munir at this point is in the United States, liaising with the US administration on many levels of strategy and defense.
Pakistan will rise, inshallah.
All right, I'm cutting across to our big story here, the war that currently unfolds between Iran and Israel. Israel has launched Operation Rising Lion that has begun on June 13th. It continues unabated. After this surprise attack on Iran, Iran has also retaliated with Operation True Promise. This is unprecedented period of direct military confrontation. Both countries are now in an unprecedented war. The first time it appears that Iran has taken on or attacked Israel to this extent, and importantly, the first time that Israel has shown its capability against Iran. Israel using fighter jets, drone strikes across Iran, targeting nuclear and military sites, including surface-to-surface missile production facilities, detection radar sites, and surface-to-air missile launchers. Israel forces have also reportedly killed several top Iranian military commanders and atomic scientists. The IDF claims to have destroyed 1/3 of Iran's surface-to-surface missile launchers and achieved full air superiority over Tehran. Iran's health ministry reporting at least 224 fatalities and over 1,200 injuries. In retaliation, Tehran has launched barrages of missiles and drones hitting Israeli cities and towns, causing at least 24 deaths and 592 injuries, with a major oil refinery in Haifa among the targets. The IDF has confirmed intercepting over 100 Iranian UAVs. In a fresh round of strike, Israel has hit Iran's northwest city of Tabriz, carried out several extensive strikes on military targets in western Iran. In retaliation, Iran claims to have destroyed strategic positions of the Zionist regime in Tel Aviv and Haifa. Earlier, loud booms were heard over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem as air raid sirens sounded across Israel following warnings of incoming Iranian missiles. Let me introduce to tell us a little more on what this war at this point really means to the world, and mostly to the two countries who are currently at it. Itai Malkaya, who's former executive, Israeli National Security Council. Thanks very much for joining back here, Ikai. We also have Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former Indian diplomat, who's with us. Major General Rajan Kochar, Strategic Affairs and Defence expert. I will, of course, bring in our ambassador first on the panel. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, this war seems to be intensifying. Israel has really stepped up its attack on Iran, with the death toll mounting to much over 230. Israel has lost about 18 people, we hear, unconfirmed reports. Would you tell us where this is headed and what will take for both of them to stop?
Well, first of all, I think there is a mounting fear of the escalation of the conflict. According to reports, Trump has instructed the White House Security Council to meet, and they are announcing the deployment of additional capabilities to the Middle East to enhance the Pentagon's defensive posture. So whether it is defensive or offensive remains to be seen. But very significantly, when he cut short his stay at the G7 in Canada, Trump said, I have to be back early for obvious reasons. And then he also said that he was returning to Washington for the big stuff. All this taken together with his post urging the Iranians on his social platform to immediately evacuate their capital, Tehran, which is a city of about 17 million people. This has mounted some fear of an escalation. Now, either he intends to get the United States directly involved, or he is pressurizing Iran to agree to a nuclear treaty. There are only two possibilities, because why else would he be saying that he's going back for the big stuff and that he's going back for obvious reasons? And why else would the United States be increasing the presence of US forces? So, to me, it appears that he is going to pressurize Iran as much as possible. And if Iran is not willing to sign the nuclear treaty, then I am afraid the United States will step in alongside Israel, and we will see an escalation of the conflict as we have not even envisaged till now.
All right. Well, let me bring in Itai, who's joining us right there from Israel itself. Itai, would you want to... Itai, if you can hear me and unmute yourself, give us a little more on the current situation on day 5 of this war. First of all, are you calling this, is Israel calling this war?
Yes, well, the word war has taken on different meanings these days, because you have all kinds of war. The war with the Hamas, for example, in Gaza is what is called an asymmetric war, when it's a terrorist organization against the country. Here we see a war with no real soldiers clashing with each other, no tanks, no soldiers, but everything is happening through the air. So yes, it is war. The two countries are fighting, and there will be some sort of outcome in a few weeks. But it is a war. You can call it an operation if you don't like the word war. But in the end, it is a war.
Right. So at the end, you call this a war, certainly. Would you confirm to us on the deaths on the Israeli side, and if Netanyahu still is aggressively moving forward with this war, knowing very well the casualties it could have?
Yes, certainly. First, the confirmed number of casualties on the Israeli side is 24. By the way, people don't talk about this, but this includes a family of 4, an Arab family of 4 from the Arab city in the Galilee called Tamra, that their home was struck. I have no idea why. Again, when you target civilians, you don't discriminate if it's Christians or Muslims or Jews, and that is a death toll right now. Very heavy bombs wherever there's a direct hit that makes it through the defense systems. Then we see big craters and a lot of damage to dozens of houses in the region, and therefore also relatively a high number of people who are injured. But then you have to remember that Israel has the best defense, anti-missile defense systems spread out to the country, also being assisted by the US and also by some other allies and neighbors who are also assisting in stopping some of the attacks on the way. So in the end, only less than 5% of the things shot at Israel, if it's missiles or drones, less than 5% actually make it and explode in Israel. And that is, just try to imagine what the death toll would have been like had Israel not had those advanced defense systems, and the population would not have had shelters and obey the instructions to run for shelter when there is an attack coming. We usually get a few minutes warning, and most people in Israel go run to shelters 3 to 7 times a day in the last few days. Also many times during night, 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. are favorite hours. Maybe they're trying some sleep deprivation on us. So this is the way it looks like in Israel. As you mentioned, I'm live from Haifa. Haifa has taken several hits and death toll, including, as you said, the oil refineries, which are very soon to start operating again. So part of the struggle and the targets of the operation currently is also hunting and targeting, which now is an attack on a launcher that is ready to launch. It's really ready to launch. These things are in hiding. They get taken out towards the time they want to shoot, and there's a small window of opportunity to find them and eliminate them before they fire. Iran has many more rockets and missiles than it has launchers, and therefore the target is getting all of those launchers, and that is only part of the Israeli plan. You asked what Netanyahu wants to do. It seems Israel has a steady plan of the target it wants to hit, be it nuclear sites, be it military industry sites, be it military bases, and slowly, one by one, those places are getting targeted.
You know, if I could bring in Major General Dr. Rajan there. Sir, as we know, Israel is claiming superiority with their weaponry, but at the end of it, it's hard to believe Israel is alone in this. They've been fighting a war for a while now. Would you be able to give us clarity on who could be backing Israel?
Netanyahu was asked this explicitly at the press conference last night.
For bringing me to this discussion.
Yes.
It's very, very clear that Israel cannot be doing this alone. It has the backing of the United States, and why I actually say that is, I will start with the cyber warfare first. I will start with the satellite and information systems which the United States is providing to Israel.
Yeah.
And 360 degrees coverage round the clock 24/7 in this war, because in case you want to pinpoint your targets, if you want to have that kind of a precision, you need this kind of communication assistance, which I think the United States is providing Israel. It is at the back end, and we are very, very certain that it is happening in this manner. Second, there are 2-3 indicators before this operation started. In Sudan, a United States positioned a squadron of their F-15s, as also before this war, the Iron Dome was replenished by the US interceptors. It is there for us to see that is why the Iron Dome has been very, very successful. Its success rate is almost 90%. So we have to accept a fact that no air defense system is impregnable. You will find some 20-30 missiles. If you're going to fire 300 odd missiles, you will find 20 to 30 of them going through and hitting those targets, and that's what we have seen in Israel actually happening. But the point to note is the way Israel has planned this operation. I must compliment the way it has been done, because the first step was the cyber warfare. trying to jam all their air defense systems of Iran and giving a free run to all the fighter jets, almost 200 of them, F-15s and F-35s, were able to penetrate inside Iran. The second aspect is about the human intelligence, how they have been able to infiltrate into Iran and bring in the drones with precision kind of attacks on those military leaders and the scientists. They have used loitering ammunition drones and have pinpointed those areas where the information was available because of human intelligence. This is one aspect of warfare, I think, when we have to look at the lessons learned and we have to go in for precision strikes. I think Israel has set a benchmark for all those countries who want to emulate these kind of operations. The third aspect is the selection of targets. If you compare the way Iran has struck Israel and the way Israel has struck Iran, you will find a great difference in the selection of targets, because Israel has gone in for those nuclear sites, for those military installations, for the air defense system, for the command and control centers, and for those areas which will reduce the war waging capability of a country. Whereas Iran, the type of targets which Iran has hit has not degraded the war waging potential of Israel. So that is the difference in the two. And in this 5 days of warfare, one thing which is found is that Israel really does not have the capability to get into those nuclear sites where the uranium is stored. You see, today Israel has been able to destroy the infrastructure at these nuclear sites in terms of power supply, in terms of research facilities, but they have not been able to get inside that tunnels and the mountains where almost 40-50 meters inside these uranium stockpiles are there. And that is why we are now seeing posturing by the Americans with their B-52 bombers being deployed ahead of Diego Garcia. I think almost 38 of them have already moved this side of the Mediterranean Sea, because after 5 days of conflict, what we are observing is, you see, Israel had two major aims in mind. One was to degrade the nuclear capability, bomb making capability of Iran, and the second was to bring in a regime change, trying to create a situation in the country where the people will themselves ask. And if you see Netanyahu also appealing to the people of Iran that you need to get away.
We see that. We see that, and we see that there's fair amount of response coming into that message as well. Civilians there in Iran are not happy with their regime. We've seen widespread hijab protests that panned out barely a year ago. And that apart, the ruthlessness with which the regime has carried on, it seems like their own people are frustrated, and they could very well see this as a lease of life to push out the current regime. Well, a quick look at the students from India who are currently studying in Iran. If I could just take you through those visuals there. Indian students, mostly studying medicine, are currently living in fear there in Iran, are asking for help from India to get them evacuated at the earliest. And we saw many of the students there already lining up. In 2022 as well, India safely evacuated thousands of students from Ukraine. So this is yet another round that it appears India is now ensuring, where students who are studying in Iran are safely brought back home. Most of them are from Jammu and Kashmir. These are students, around 2,000 of them, mainly from Jammu and Kashmir, who find themselves in a precarious situation. The External Affairs Ministry has now helped them evacuate from there and are being brought home. Iran earlier agreed to India's request to enable safe evacuation of these students, and it appears that they're all now moving out by foot. They are being provided land border crossings into Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan and Afghanistan after the Iranian airspace was shut down. So they're basically moving out by foot. External Affairs Ministry here has said that Indian students in Tehran have been moved out safely. All arrangements are being made. The first batch of 110 students have already crossed over to Armenia, from where they will be flown to Delhi. The Indian embassy in Tehran is closely tracking the security situation and liaising with students to keep them safe. They've published some numbers as well for students to reach out for help. In some cases, students are being relocated with embassy facilitation to safer places within Iran itself. Other feasible options are being examined. It's precisely the words of the embassy. Reacting to this, the Jammu and Kashmir Pradesh Congress Committee has asked the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to speed up the evacuation process. So requests are being made. India is now mulling over a mass evacuation effort for its citizens. A quick word from Ambassador Prabhu on this. It's always the students and the citizens, innocent civilians, particularly of India, in the crossfire here. A quick word on the fate of these students, if you feel and believe that they are safe, and importantly, what's India's stance on this war, Ambassador?
Well, India has said that it doesn't want an escalation of the conflict. In fact, it has counseled both sides, Iran and Israel, to de-escalate and to come to an agreement. It wants dialogue, it wants diplomacy. But the problem is neither side is willing to listen to us. Now, you mentioned the students. Naturally, the students always get caught in this crossfire. And for that reason also, we are very keen that there should not be any widening of the conflict. Now, let me say that Iran also doesn't want a widening of the conflict. It doesn't want to pull in Trump. And that is why it has not, for instance, gone after shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, because that would trigger global economic shockwave and would draw Trump in. So at the moment, the situation is very fragile. Our students who are there in Iran are in a very delicate situation. India has to do everything to pull them out, and the government of
India
is making efforts. But one doesn't know in which direction this conflict is going to go.
I really appreciate all of you for joining us as we are short on time. Ikai, thank you very much, Ambassador Prabhu and Major Rajan, for joining us here tonight. On that note, I wrap this bulletin right here. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great night.
This is the drive of your dreams. Introducing the all-new Skoda Kailak. Own your dream.
Skoda. पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Let there be dark. Scorpio N Carbon is here, the big daddy of SUVs.
A deep dive into what matters to you the most. Angles you won't find anywhere else. News that impacts your life.
वो देख, पवन आ गया। पवन वहाँ क्यों बैठा है? तुझे उसे टीबी है। और भाई लास्ट बेंच का मजा अकेले अकेले।
पता है ना, मुझे टीबी है।
चल चल, तुझे पता है ना, इलाज का असर शुरू होने के बाद टीबी के इन्फेक्शन का डर नहीं रहता। टिफिन में क्या है? टीबी की दवाई के साथ खाना भी अच्छे से लेना है, समझा?
अपनों का जोड़ है टीबी का तोड़, तो फिर भेदभाव क्यों? टीबी के इलाज में अपनों का साथ दें।
Every brand tells a story. They are the storytellers, the Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News 9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News 9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News 9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned. Every Saturday